What if I told you the absolute most valuable piece of real estate in your city isn't, I don't know, a downtown penthouse,
Right.
but it's actually a 1,500-meter circle drawn in invisible ink around a train station?
It sounds wild, but honestly, it is the new reality.
Yeah, because for the longest time, the map of any major metropolis was just, well, it was neatly categorized, right?
Yeah.
Over here, you had the residential sprawl. That's where people sleep.
Exactly.
And then way over there, you had the dense commercial core, where people actually work, shop, and live their lives.
And the connective tissue between those two zones was just this, sprawling, tedious network of concrete and steel.
A total chore.
Yeah, exactly. The entire urban experience was built around this concept of a city of transit. It was an environment you merely pass through.
Usually painfully slowly.
Right, painfully slowly, just to get to your actual destination. Moving masses of people from point A to point B was purely a logistical burden. The transit infrastructure itself was never meant to be the destination. It was just the toll you had to pay in time and energy to participate in the economy.
But we are currently witnessing this massive fundamental shift in how urban living actually works. I mean, the map is being completely redrawn.
Oh, absolutely.
We are moving away from that old city of transit model, and we are accelerating into this era of the city of destinations. And the fascinating part of this transition is that the transit networks themselves are becoming the literal anchors of new neighborhoods.
Yeah, the infrastructure isn't just serving the community anymore. The infrastructure is actually manufacturing the community.
Manufacturing the community. I love that phrasing.
It's a complete inversion of classic urban real estate theory. When you look at the underlying economics, the station platform has effectively replaced the highway on-ramp as the primary generator of regional wealth.
And that is exactly what we're getting into today. So for this deep dive, we are pulling from a really comprehensive real estate and urban development report.
A great report, yeah.
It's titled Similar Models, REM and STM, and it's sourced from wikiresidence.ca and infodrone.ca. Our mission today is to decode this report and figure out the exact mechanics of how these major public transit networks act as, well, wealth generators.
Because they really are.
They are. We're going to look at how they build microeconomies from scratch, and most importantly, how you, our listener, can understand these massive urban forces to protect your own equity. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, to really grasp the mechanics of this shift, we have to examine the rollout of shiny, brand new infrastructure.
Right.
In the context of our sources, that means looking at the REM. That's the Réseau Express Métropolitain.
And just for context for everyone, this is a massive, newly developed automated light rail network in the greater Montreal area.
Exactly. And the report describes the introduction of the REM as a recent electric shock for real estate development.
An electric shock.
Yeah, and that phrasing captures the economic reality perfectly.
Well, because an electric shock implies this sudden jolt that completely resets the nervous system of the local market, right?
Right. The REM model demonstrates this really wild concept in urban economics. It shows how the mere anticipation of a train actually dictates land value.
Before it's even built.
Exactly. Long before the physical tracks are laid down, long before the first whistle blows or, the first commuter even steps onto a train, the economic map of the city is already rewritten.
Wow.
Capital just floods the zone based entirely on a promised future state.
It's an anticipation economy.
Yes.
Like it operates exactly like a highly anticipated tech IPO.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. Because when a massive tech startup is preparing to go public, investors aren't buying based on the revenue the company generated yesterday.
Right. They're buying the potential.
They're buying into the future ecosystem. They are purchasing the promise of what the product will achieve before it is even fully launched.
Right.
And because the market collectively believes in that future value, the investment capital just pours in immediately, which in turn gives the company the resources to actually build the product.
Yeah.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of wealth generation.
That is exactly what's happening here. The REM is executing that exact same playbook, but instead of software and server space, we're talking about concrete, steel, and master-planned housing.
Right.
And what's fascinating here is that the REM leverages this anticipation economy by focusing almost entirely on expansion.
Okay, expansion.
Yeah, the strategy outlined in the report is all about creating brand new hubs from essentially available space.
Available space, meaning?
Meaning developers aren't just looking at a map and deciding to lay tracks, they are taking overlooked industrial zones Or strictly residential suburban areas that severely lacked a commercial center of gravity.
Right.
And they are transforming them into dynamic, vibrant new urban centers.
And the report highlights a very specific success story to illustrate this, right? Brossard Station.
Yes, Broussard Station.
And specifically, the surrounding projects like Solar Unicartier.
Solar Unicartier is the physical embodiment of this new REMM model. The report categorizes it as a turnkey neighborhood.
Turnkey meaning everything is ready to go.
Exactly. It means the transit access, the high-density housing, the commercial retail spaces, the public
Yeah.
squares, all of it is harmonized and constructed concurrently.
Wow. So you don't just build a sprawling subdivision of houses and then cross your fingers.
Right, hoping the municipality eventually funds a bus line a decade later.
Right, right.
No, the connectivity is baked into the foundation from day one.
So Brossard Station basically proves that you can manufacture a self-sustaining ecosystem out of thin air as long as the transit anchor is strong enough.
Exactly. And the result of baking that connectivity in from the start is a remarkably stable value increase. It actively secures the citizen's investment.
Because it's a sure thing.
Right. If you buy into a turnkey neighborhood like Solar Unicartier, you aren't just purchasing a condo, you are buying shares in a master-planned microeconomy.
Designed specifically to generate and hold value.
Regardless of broader market conditions, it's wealth creation out of newly tapped spatial potential. The REM is essentially acting as the disruptive new startup, building out the periphery and generating massive value through this relentless expansion.
But, and I have to point this out, there is an inherent limit to how far out the REM, or really any light rail system, can expand before you hit a wall of diminishing returns.
Oh, for sure. You run out of room.
You can't just keep sprawling outward into the countryside forever. Eventually, developers and urban planners are forced to look backward, straight into the densely packed, incredibly expensive urban core.
Which brings us to the other half of the report's analysis, the STM.
Right. So for our listeners, the STM represents Montreal's established underground metro system, particularly highlighting the Blue Line extension, alongside the EXO regional commuter train networks.
And the report makes a crucial, honestly counterintuitive argument here. The STM and EXO networks produce a very similar economic impact to the REM.
But they achieve it through a fundamentally different mechanism.
Yes. While the REM relies on peripheral expansion and anticipating new markets, the STM strategy relies heavily on densification and asset optimization.
Asset optimization. Because we are analyzing a legacy system here.
Right, a system that is already bolstered by 1.1 million daily commuters.
1.1 million daily commuters is a staggering built-in audience. I mean, that fundamentally shifts the economic profile. It's no longer a promise of future foot traffic like the REM. It's guaranteed immediate daily utilization.
And that existing flow of humanity is their massive strategic advantage. The STM's land is already located in the heart of incredibly dense areas.
Right.
This creates what the report identifies as an established and lasting safe haven value. The development focus shifts entirely.
From building new to upgrading the old.
Exactly. It isn't about conjuring a new hub out of nowhere. It's about aggressive urban revitalization, enhancing the social mix of a community that has literally existed for decades.
Wait, let me push back on this, though.
Sure.
Because isn't it notoriously difficult and expensive to build in already dense, established neighborhoods? I mean, why is the STM's location considered a strategic advantage when the barrier to entry for developers is a massive, expensive headache compared to just building on an empty suburban lot?
It's a great question. The barrier to entry is insanely high. You're dealing with century-old subterranean infrastructure, zoning laws, community pushback.
Yeah, a severe lack of physical space. It costs an absolute fortune just to break ground.
It does, but the calculus for developers comes down to risk mitigation.
Oh.
Yes, the regulatory and construction burdens in a dense core are immense, but the reason it remains an overwhelming advantage is the absolute certainty of the return on investment.
The certainty.
Right. The value is extracted from what is already physically and culturally established. When a developer builds a high-rise next to an existing STM station, they aren't speculating on whether millennials or young professionals will want to live there in 10 years.
Because they're already there.
Exactly. They have hard data showing exactly how many thousands of people walk past that specific street corner every single morning. The infrastructure is battle-tested. The demand is undeniable and structurally embedded in the city's daily routine.
So it's the difference between investing in a high-risk, high-reward growth stock versus a blue chip dividend stock.
That is a perfect analogy. The REM is the tech startup promising future dominance, and the STM is the blue chip utility company that prints reliable returns year after year.
And the report provides a really brilliant case study of how this asset optimization actually plays out in the real world.
It does, specifically looking at the area around the Longo Universidad de Sherbrooke station.
The transformation of the surface parking lots.
Yes.
This is such a fascinating pivot in urban design. I mean, it's huge.
It really is. If you look at the history of how we built transit hubs in the mid to late 20th century, the prevailing logic was the park and ride.
Right, just massive parking lots.
Cities paved these massive flat expanses of concrete surrounding major stations so suburban commuters could leave their cars for the day.
Which is a remarkably inefficient use of prime, highly connected real estate.
It was terrible. You essentially created dead zones of asphalt in the middle of the city.
But now, the economic pressure is forcing a reclamation of those spaces. The development around Longway is transforming those former surface parking oceans into what the report categorizes as a vertical downtown.
A vertical downtown. Instead of sprawling outward and paving over more nature, developers are building upward right on top of the existing transit node.
And the report explicitly mentions how this strategy maximizes urban land use without encroaching on surrounding green spaces or residential zones.
Which is huge for the modern workforce. We have to look at the specific demographic this appeals to. A vertical downtown is engineered to attract a generation that prioritizes two specific metrics above almost everything else.
Right. Immediate frictionless connectivity to the cultural and economic centers of the city. And a drastically reduced personal carbon footprint.
Exactly. And by living in a high-density vertical downtown directly above a metro station, they achieve both seamlessly.
The need for personal vehicle ownership just evaporates.
Their environmental impact shrinks, while their access to the metropolis maximizes.
Okay, so the value is clearly tied to the station. Whether we are talking about the speculative expansion of the REM or the intense densification of the STM, both models create massive, reliable wealth.
Absolutely.
But that economic impact can't be infinite.
Well, it's not.
There has to be a physical degradation point where the transit halo just sort of wears off.
Right.
Like the value of being near a train has to drop the further you walk away from it.
And finding that degradation point is the single most important metric in modern real estate.
Right.
Because it's not enough to simply be in the same zip code or the same general neighborhood as a transit station. The economic impact has a highly specific, measurable geographical footprint.
And the report defines this as the optimal value zone.
The optimal value zone, yes.
Yeah. And it draws a very hard line. A radius of exactly 500 to 1,500 meters from the transit hub.
That 500 to 1,500 meter window is the golden ratio of urban real estate planning.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because this radius, it functions exactly like buying tickets to a rock concert.
Oh, I like this.
Right, because if you buy front row seats, you're right next to the stage. 0 to 400 meters away, sure, you have a perfect view of the band, but you are standing right next to the giant speakers.
Your eardrums get blown out.
Exactly. You get crushed by the crowd, the noise is deafening, it's actually an awful experience. Conversely, if you're standing way out in the parking lot, miles away, you can't hear the music at all. You get none of the benefits of the concert.
Right.
But there is a specific, measurable sweet spot a few rows back, where you get the perfect view, perfect acoustics, and absolutely none of the ear-bleeding noise.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the mechanics of the optimal value zone. If a property is located right on top of the station, inside that 0 to 400 meter range, it certainly boasts ultimate convenience.
But that convenience comes with a severe lifestyle penalty.
Huge penalty. You are subjected to the acoustic noise of the trains, the physical vibration of the tracks,
The constant, overwhelming foot traffic of thousands of daily commuters.
and the inevitable increase in litter and localized road congestion right outside your front door. You are standing next to the giant speakers.
But if you step back into that 500 to 1,500 meter radius, the environment completely changes.
It does. And the math behind those specific distances is fascinating because it's rooted in human biology and psychology.
Okay, how so?
Well, 500 meters is roughly a 5-minute walk for the average adult. That 5-minute physical buffer is exactly the distance required for the immediate acoustic noise and vibration of a transit hub to completely fade into the background city hum.
So it's literally the acoustic buffer zone.
Exactly.
And what about the 1,500 meter cap? Why does the value drop off after that?
Because 1,500 meters translates to roughly a 15 to 20-minute walk. Urban planners have long known that 20 minutes is the maximum psychological threshold the average human is willing to walk twice a day for a standard commute.
Before commuter fatigue sets in.
Right. The moment a walk hits 25 or 30 minutes, human behavior shifts dramatically. People will instinctively reach for their car keys or look for a
They
bus.
give up on the walking.
Yeah. So within that 500 to 1500 meter pocket, real estate appreciation hits its absolute peak efficiency. You have frictionless access to the transit system, a pleasant, highly manageable daily walk, but you are physically insulated from the nuisance of the station.
It feels like a quiet residential enclave, yet the connectivity of the entire metropolis is just a 15-minute stroll away.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the report elevates this concept beyond just a nice-to-have lifestyle perk.
Right.
They emphasize that falling within the specific radius functions as a literal economic fortress wall.
They use the term equity protection.
Yes, equity protection. Proximity to a station within this 1,500-meter zone acts as a hard-coded insurance policy against property depreciation.
It acts as an economic moat. I mean, even when the broader macroeconomic environment is experiencing severe turbulence, like when central banks are hiking interest rates,
Or when regional housing markets are cooling down.
or when inflation is just eating into purchasing power, properties inside that 500 to 1,500-meter radius hold their value demonstrably better than properties located out in the sprawling periphery.
Because the underlying utility of that location never diminishes. Regardless of what the stock market is doing on any given Tuesday, 1 million people still need to get to work.
They still need to access the city's commercial centers.
And they increasingly value the financial convenience of not relying on a personal vehicle.
That demand isn't just a trend. It is structurally built into the geography of the neighborhood. Finding that sweet spot at the rock concert is the single best guarantee of economic resilience. For developers pouring millions into a high-rise, for institutional investors,
And for everyday citizens just trying to buy a condo without losing their shirt in a recession.
exactly. Okay, so we have the theoretical framework down. We know the exact radius of the optimal value zone, and we understand the differing expansion models of the RAM and STM.
Right.
But I think the most compelling part of the report is seeing how the open market is actively adapting to this data. You shouldn't view the new RAM and the legacy STM as competitors fighting for the same commuter.
Not at all. They are two halves of a synergistic whole. They are blanketing the metropolis in these protective 1,500-meter value zones.
And the market is absolutely reacting to this reality. The report uses a specific platform, iResidence.ca, as a primary case study in how real estate data is being fundamentally reorganized around transit synergy.
That's a great tool.
It really is.
Yes.
Because this isn't just about listing properties anymore. It's about changing the very architecture of how we search for homes.
Yeah, what's fascinating about iResidence is that they didn't just passively map the new train stations. They looked at this urban shift, this massive integration of the REM, the STM, and the EXO networks, and they fundamentally altered their core search algorithms to reflect this new reality.
Right.
They doubled their covered territories to include the entire island of Montreal and every single station serviced by this integrated network.
They basically took the abstract urban planning theory we've been dissecting.
All of it. The mechanics of the anticipation economy, the psychology of commuter fatigue, the acoustic buffer zones.
And they just hard-coded it into their user interface. They now generate these comprehensive research reports for all active listings, both rentals and sales, pulling data from across all brokerages.
And they are instant and 100% free. But the really brilliant part, the specific filter they use to generate those reports is exactly 1.5 kilometers.
Unbelievable.
They draw a perfect 1.5 kilometer radius around every single transit hub. They literally built the optimal value zone into the search engine. It is a remarkable democratization of real estate intelligence.
Because, I mean, a decade ago, identifying that exact protective radius required a team of urban analysts and massive institutional capital.
Well, yeah, everyday people didn't have that data.
If you were a regular citizen, you were just guessing based on a feeling.
Right.
But now, the 1,500-meter survival radius is the default starting point for the consumer. The tool maps the sweet spot for you, turning high-level equity protection into an immediate, actionable metric.
It signals a permanent shift in how we value land. We no longer assess a property strictly by its square footage or, the quality of its kitchen renovation.
We access it by its friction.
Exactly. How much friction exists between this front door and the economic heart of the city? The 1.5 kilometer transit radius eliminates that friction.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out and look at the totality of what we've unpacked from this report,
Yeah.
Well, it means that public transit has fundamentally transcended its original purpose.
It really has.
It is no longer just a municipal utility. It's not merely a taxpayer-funded service that helps you get from your house to your office.
No, transit is the foundational anchor for all future community revitalization.
It is the primary engine of modern real estate equity.
Mm.
And if you understand how to navigate its geographic footprint, it is your most reliable personal financial safety net.
This raises an important question.
Let's hear it.
We've spent this entire deep dive dissecting how that 500 to 1,500 meter transit radius acts as a literal financial shield during economic downturns. We know it protects property value and guarantees relentless demand.
Right.
But if that is the new reality of urban economics, could the ultimate metric for assessing our personal wealth and, frankly, our overall well-being in the 21st century simply be the walking distance from our front door to our nearest public transit hub?
Wow.
And if walkability is the new gold standard of equity, what does that mean for the long-term financial viability of all that car-dependent suburban sprawl? You know, the places that sit miles away, stranded far beyond that 1,500-meter sweet spot.
That is a phenomenal thought to leave on. The map really is being redrawn, and the center of the universe is no longer the highway on-ramp. It is the station platform. We have officially moved from the city of transit to the city of destinations. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. Keep observing the world around you. Keep questioning how your city is built, and we will see you on the next deep dive.